Prabhu, on behalf of the youth, we welcome you on our session today. We are very, very fortunate to have you here. Actually, some of our youth attended your session, the Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, the early morning Dubai Damodar Desh sessions that were running. And some of the youth that attended that were very inspired, and they sent us a note saying that Prabhu is a wonderful speaker, specifically very relatable to the youth. And of course, me personally, I got in touch with your book, which is the auspicious prayers from the Bhagavatam in Mayapur, which is, I think, about 3 or 4 years back. And I also remember attending your Bhagavatam class in the morning. So now, taking an advantage of this pandemic situation, we thought we would invite you virtually for our youth Sangha. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for accepting the invitation. And to all our youth, Madhavananda Prabhu is a scholar of our movement. He's joined our movement in 1982 and has been serving in Bhubaneswar in Orissa since 1993 under the guidance of Gauranga Mahaprabhu Swami Maharaj. And Prabhu is also an author. He's also an editor for Gopalji Publications that also has come up with various books or more like guides on, like one of them is how to become a guru. The other one is more on Gaur Lila. And of course, some of them are the auspicious mantras that Prabhu has specifically mentioned in the book for us from the Bhagavatam. So we're very fortunate. Keep your ears wide open, and let's hear today from Prabhu on Gaur Lila. So again, over to you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Hare Krishna.
I think there's a reason why he's called Petit Pavan, because I'm very petite and he's very pavan. He's very kind. It reminds me of a prayer that I once heard in America, saying, "Dear God, please let me become the kind of person that my cat thinks I am." Not that Prabhuji's a cat, but I hope I can become that kind of person someday. Just one little correction. We wrote a book called How to Find Guru, not How to Be Guru.
Okay, perfect.
You can write that book. I don't know how to write that. Okay, so thank you very much, Prabhuji. Today we have a very topic I like very much and I'm very excited by. I'd like to share with all of you, because first of all, here I am today speaking in front of you. I don't know what benefit there is of that, but this is something Krishna's having us do. But whenever we speak in front of other people, we should always consider that what is it that we're saying, which is applicable or relevant for us today. And if we can't speak about how it's relevant for us today, then it honestly becomes a little boring. It becomes like history. But this history, as we'll speak today, is a very, very wonderful history. We want to speak something about both through philosophy and through some pastimes, about how Gauranga Mahaprabhu's pastimes are still going on today. So fasten your safety belts. We'd like to take you on a little journey tonight to Sridham Mayapur and many other different wonderful places. I'm going to sing a few verses, sometimes with my little electronic keyboard here. You just be patient and tolerate that. This is from Chaitanya Bhagavat, from the Adi Kanda, chapter 3. And Vrindavan Das Thakur describes about the nature of Gauranga Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Eshabba Lilada Kabu Nahi Paricheda Avirbhava Tiro Bhava Matra Kahi Veda. He says that Eshabba Lila Kabu Nahi Paricheda. There's no time when these pastimes stop. Avirbhav Tirobhav Matra Kahi Veda. The Vedas describe that sometimes they're visible, Avirbhav, and sometimes Tirobhav. Sometimes they're not visible. And in chapter 10, Vrindavan Das Thakur says a very similar thing. Ajapiya Chaitanya e Shabalila Kore. Jakone Jahare Kore Dristi Adi Kare. He says, Ajapiha. Right now, right here, wherever we're at, Chaitanya Shabalila Kore. All of Mahaprabhu's pastimes, Chaitanya e Shabalila Kori, they're all going on. And Jakone Jahari Kori Dristi Adikari. Someone who's very fortunate, they can see those pastimes. So Srila Prabhupada describes a very amazing thing in his purport to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 11, text 89. So this is our philosophical foundation, and we want to give some practical examples of pastimes and things for this. So if you're not a big appreciator of Siddhanta, it's okay, just fasten your safety belt. I think you'll probably survive. Srila Prabhupada quotes Narottam Das Thakur from his Prarthana. Gaurangera sange gane natya siddha kori mane se jaya brajendra sutta pas. Prabhupada comments on this verse in his purport. He says, one who is intelligent understands that all the personal associates and devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are ever liberated. This means that because they're always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, they don't belong to this material world. One who's engaged in the Lord's devotional service 24 hours daily and never forgets the Lord is called Nitya Siddha. And a few paragraphs later in the same purport, Prabhupada writes, a devotee is always thinking of how better to serve Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how to broadcast his name, fame, and qualities throughout the world. He says, one who is Nitya Siddha has no business other than broadcasting the glories of the Lord all over the world according to his ability. Such people are already associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur says, Nitya Siddha Korimani. One should not think that because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally present 500 years ago, only his associates were liberated. Rather, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says that anyone is a Nitya Siddha if he acts on behalf of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by spreading the glories of the holy name of the Lord. We should respect those devotees preaching the glories of the Lord as Nitya Siddha and should not consider them to be conditioned. Okay, so a few of you have your cameras on. Maybe some more of you can turn your cameras on. I can see here Ojasvi Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna. We see, who else? Very few other people, only Ojasvi Krishna Prabhu. So I'd like to see a show of hands, at least Ojasvi Krishna. Brajabanita's there also. Petit Pavan Prabhu. How many of you consider yourself to be a Nitya Siddha? Raise your hand. Giant raised his hand, right? Did you see that? I saw that. Maybe he was scratching his nose. I think Krishna made him touch his nose just at that particular moment. So we may have some doubts. We may say, well, gee whiz, that's really nice. It sounds like the kind of thing that Petit Pavan Prabhu would say about Madhavananda before, before his talk or something. But I think maybe Srila Prabhupada, we may say that Srila Prabhupada is just encouraging us. It's an interesting thing. Sometimes if you read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, if you hear about some of Prabhupada's dealings with his disciples, many times, not just once or twice, but many times Prabhupada said things like, you are an incarnation, you're an incarnation of book distribution, you're an associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prabhupada, sometimes he would say things like, all my disciples are pure devotees. Okay. So some of you look like you're young enough to be my sons or maybe even grandsons. I just turned 60. uh, when I grew up in America in Krishna consciousness, I have a lot of friends who are Prabhupada disciples, and I love them, and they're wonderful devotees. And I heartily encourage you, if you can ever get association with disciples of Srila Prabhupada, please do that, and please serve them and love them. At the same time, I have to very honestly say that for me to accept that all of them are pure devotees, as Srila Prabhupada sometimes said, is a little difficult to accept. I'll just give you one example without names. I know one very senior devotee, a male, who I won't say much else about him, but he later became a male striptease dancer in a gay bar. And it's a little hard to imagine how that person is a pure devotee. And some of the devotees, they went on to eat meat, and they went on to forget all about Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada said they're pure devotees. Now, there's two principles here, as I see. One is to call them pure devotees, and another is to call them Nitya Siddha. So we're going to speak a little bit of philosophy. Just be patient with me, okay? In the Bhagavad Gita 9:30, Krishna says, Api chet sudaracharo bhajatema mananyabhak sadareva samantavya samyaghi vyasito hisa. That this is a pure devotee. Someone who's doing ananyata bhajan, he's sadhar eva samantavya. We should respect him as a sadhu, even though he's a durachari. He's a durachari sadhu. His achara, his behavior is not very good. But he's a sadhu because he's doing ananyata bhajan. Now, most of the Hare Krishna people that I talk to, they think that ananyata bhajan means you have like this halo built over your head and you're glowing, and you touch someone and they just faint and they start rolling on the ground and chanting Hare Krishna. But that's not what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in his purport to this verse. He says that ananyata bhajan means they're not taking shelter of karma, of gyan, of yoga. They're not doing demigod worship. They're just taking shelter of Krishna. And they're a sadhu in that sense, but they're a durachari sadhu. And Jiva Goswami, when he comments on this verse in his Bhakti Sandarbha, he says there that we give respect to them, but we don't really want to hear from them, okay? But how is it that they're a sadhu? They're a sadhu because they have a proper motivation. They have some proper understanding. So Srila Prabhupada, I think very correctly, said that at least at certain times and places, all my disciples are pure devotees because they weren't taking shelter of karma, of gyan, of yoga. They weren't worshiping the demigods. They were focused on Krishna. Now, maybe they had material desires. Maybe they didn't have that halo over their head that we're talking about, but they're pure devotees. But now Srila Prabhupada, in this purport from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 11, text 89, he says that anyone who is always engaged in the service of the Lord and who's has no other business than broadcasting the glories of the Lord all over the world according to his ability, such a person is already an eternal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Wow. Oh, that's another thing. It's one thing to say, okay, they're pure devotees because, they were chanting Hare Krishna. They weren't going to the pubs or bars, whatever you want to call them. They weren't worshiping the demigods or whatever. They were focused on Krishna, at least at that time. But now Prabhupada's saying they're Nitya Siddha. This is a very, very mysterious thing. So if we look back on these verses that we were citing from Chaitanya Bhagavat, we get some clue. Adyapiha Chaitanya Eshaba Lila Kori, Jakone Jahadi Kori, Drishti Adikari. That right now, right here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes are going on even today. So this Gaura Lila has not stopped. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Thakur, I can tell you a few interesting stories about him, examples of this, that once when he was staying at the Chaitanya Mutt, which is the place where his samadhi is at today in Mayapur Dham. And that's where, if you've been there, there's Radhakund and Shamakund and Govardhan Hill there, and the samadhi of Gorkishore Das Babaji's there. Wonderful place. Huh? And the deities of Shri Shri Gandharvika Giridhari. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had his Bhajan Kutir there. And one morning, like, I don't know, 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning, before even the most hardcore brahmacharis get up, right? Suddenly the devotees heard some shouting and loud noises. And many of the devotees, they woke up and they came out and they found a very startling thing, that their Guru Maharaj had gone mad. They found Srila Bhaktisiddhanta standing out there, and he was crying and he was shaking and he was shouting at the devotees, there, 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 do you see them? Right there. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita, they're dancing. Do you see them? And the devotees are kind of looking at each other and, no, I don't. But one devotee, he looked in that way, and oh my God, and he fell on the ground in a faint. He saw what his Guru Maharaj was speaking about. So Adya Piha Chaitanya is Shabalila Kori, Jakone Jahadi Kori Dristi Adhikari, is someone's Dristi Adhikar, who has the qualification to see, who's a very fortunate person. He may see that these pastimes are going on even today. I've been living in Jagannath Puri for about the last 25, 26 years in Orissa and Jagannath Puri. And here there's Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's Bhajan Kutir at a place called the Purushottam Mutt, which is just very close to Tota Gopinath. And if you come here to Puri, we'll take you there. And there's a very, very esoteric purport to that place. Very far out story we could tell you. That's another topic. But anyway, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta used to stay there on top of the hill. The question is why he put the deities down lower than himself down the hill, and why he put his Bhajan Kutir up higher. That's another, I'm not going to answer that. It would take me a few hours. If you want to know the answer to that question, you can read the article that we wrote about it in our magazine, or you can come here to Jagannath Puri, and we'll take you around in Parikrama, and we'll tell you the story. Or maybe Brajabanita, who's here now, maybe she can tell you the story if you're really nice to her. If she remembers the story, I don't know. So anyway, he was staying there in that Bhajan Kutir on top of the hill. Let me show you a picture of that Bhajan Kutir. During the Fani, is that right, Fani cyclone? Fani cyclone. It was funny, but not very funny. This is from that article. And you can see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's Bhajan Kutir there. And in the next previous page, you can see his bed that's there. So that Bhajan Kutir was destroyed almost completely in the recent cyclone, and the devotees are rebuilding it now. But that's a very special place for us. It's a place where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote his last letter to our Srila Prabhupada. It's also the place where he got the last letter from Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada wrote him a letter when he was in Bombay and sent that to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Anyway, it's a separate story. But while he was staying there, when devotees would come to Puri, he had a very interesting recommendation. He said, I advise you to go to the beach about 3 o'clock in the morning and chant japa. Well, that's not such an easy thing to do. Why? He said, because every morning at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates are there taking bath. And if you're very fortunate, you might even see it going on today. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is staying in the Gambhira in Kashi Mishra Bhavan, and every morning he would go very early, take bath in the ocean, and then he would walk back past the place known as Chatak Parvat, where this Purushottam Mutt is, to go to the Jagannath Mandir for Mangalartik Darshan of Lord Jagannath every day. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, said that if you go there today, that beach, you may see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And interestingly, the road that goes to that beach, the name of it is Gaura Batsahi, which means the road of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because they say that's the road where he was walking on, and that's the road where he's still walking today. So my suggestion is this, my proposal is this, that if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, can you turn off the water pump? You already did. If Sri Chaitanya, sorry, if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's really Mahavadanyaya avatar, if he's Sankirtanaika Pitaro, the father of the Sankirtan movement, then if he's really Mahavadanyaya, the most merciful, then how do we accept that Gaura Lila now is finished and it's just some history? We don't accept that. So this, when we speak about Gaura Purnima, or the appearance day, the Avirbhav Maha Mahotsava, or the Janma Lila Mahotsav of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's something which is going on eternally. It's something which is going on even today. It's something which happens in the hearts of sincere devotees. So I'd like to take you on another little bit of a journey. This is a long journey that goes from contemporary Vrindavan, the Vrindavan of a couple hundred years ago, which is still a little contemporary, to the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to the place known as Mayapur, and to Vrindavan, and to back to the contemporary land of Vrindavan again. So this is from a rare book, which we had translated from Bengali, called the Naraharir Vishesha Parichoy. This was written by, just for those of you who are book freaks like me, this was written by one of the disciples of Narahari Chakravarti Thakur. His name was Ananda Narayan Maitra Bhagavat Bhushan. That's his whole title. He's a great devotee. Narahari Chakravarti Thakur, in his Narottam Vilas, he wrote this wonderful book about the pastimes of Narottam Das Thakur and his associates. And Ananda Narayan Maitra Bhagavat Bhushan wrote Parichaya, or a Vishishta. Vishishta means an appendix to that story. And he tells there how one day in Vrindavan, Narahari Chakravarti was there at the temple of Govindaji. And he was speaking to a great devotee whose name was Lakshman Das. And Lakshman Das spoke to Narahari. He saw that Narahari was feeling very, very depressed. Just like many of us, sometimes we feel depressed. If you go to Los Angeles, that's where I joined in 1982, just about 4 years after Srila Prabhupada was present there in Los Angeles, 4 or 5 years. And I used to go and chant japa in Srila Prabhupada's rooms. You've probably seen photos of that and videos of Prabhupada there. We used to go to Venice Beach and walk along the beach where Prabhupada was. Where Prabhupada walked, we used to go to Cheviot Hills Park and walk where Prabhupada walked. And they would have these wonderful Prabhupada remembrance festivals. And okay, it's really nice to hear all these stories about Prabhupada, and all the devotees would cry. And I would sit there and think, man, what did I do? I was present. I could have, why couldn't I have been present in California, in Los Angeles, when Srila Prabhupada was here? So Narahari Chakravarti was thinking like that. I miss seeing Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He gave initiation to my father. His name was Jagannath Chakravarti. And he was so very, very merciful to him. And I'm so unfortunate. I missed all these great devotees. So Lakshman Das was trying to put him together. And he said, look, man, it's okay. Look, your name's also Ganesham. And I knew all about this before you were even born. He said, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he ordered your father to go home. Your father wanted to join the Hare Krishna movement. And Vishwanath told him, look, don't be crazy. Go back to your wife. Just stay at home and do your work and things. And somehow or other, it was me who managed to help him stay there according to Mahaprabhu's desire. And by this arrangement, you were eventually born. And since that time, I've always tried to look after you. So now, just get yourself together, compose yourself, and you should perform service to Govinda Dev here in Braj. This is the desire of your father, and also my Guru Dev, whose name was Ram Lakshman Dev, and he ordered me in a dream to tell you these stories. So when he was glorifying him like this, and he told, Lakshman Das told Narahari, he said that all the devotees said that very soon there's going to be a very wonderful devotee who's going to manifest, and that devotee, his name is Narahari, and that's you. Something like Patit Pavan Prabhu speaking some glorification of myself before we begin. And Narahari, he heard that and it pierced his heart like a knife in the heart. And he started crying and rolling on the ground. What is this? They're glorifying me. Where is Chakravarti Mahasaya? Where is Vishwanath Chakravarti? I've heard all about him. Where is that Vishwanath? And he started sobbing and crying. Ha ha, Rupa Sanatan. Ha Raghunath Das, ha Jiva, ha Gopal Bhatta, Bhatta Raghunath. Where are you all? I've given all of you up and I've taken birth. It's such a time. What kind of body have I taken? I haven't seen your pastimes. And so in the absence of all of you, this very miserable wretch can only hear secondhand about the glories of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. But I have no chance to hear those nectarian words directly from his lotus mouth. Wouldn't you like to meet Srila Prabhupada? Wouldn't you like to be there? Maybe you could give Prabhupada a massage. You could clean Prabhupada's rooms. You could ask some questions to Srila Prabhupada. These kind of desires should come to our hearts. These are natural desires. Not just that, oh, Srila Prabhupada, he's a historic person. And if you got initiated by him, you're very fortunate. And all of you, well, anyway, it's too bad. You didn't get initiated by Prabhupada. What can you do? What is that? When we hear these things, it should make us cry. And it should make our hearts burn. That I want to see this thing. And so Narahari Chakravarti began to lament and he started piteously crying. He said, I heard so many things from my father, but Mahaprabhu has left me stranded here. He's gone somewhere else. I never served his feet. I'm cursed. I'm so unfortunate. My heart has been pierced by a sharp spear. I've been cheated out of the lotus feet. What kind of horrible activities did I do to be born right now? My deliverer, my Lord is Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Will I ever be able to see the lotus feet of Prabhupada, of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur? And Narahari Chakravarti Thakur began to cry. My Guru Maharaj, he told this once in Bhubaneswar, actually said a few times. He said, I've opened a crying school here in Bhubaneswar. And the devotees should learn to cry, because unless you cry for Krishna, you can't get Krishna. And he called that Atma Krandana, or the crying of the soul. And that crying of the soul is really where our spiritual life begins. Not just that you become a, I don't know, IYF member or whatever, you give some money and they shake your hand and Patit Pavan Prabhu glorifies you on Zoom and says you're like this and that. That's not where it begins. But it begins when we cry in the heart. And at that time, Narahari Chakravarti Thakur began to cry and cry. Oh, he nata Vishwambara Patita Pavan O Hey Nityananda Prabhu Doyara Bhavan. Oh, hey, oh Lord Vishwambar, oh Pati Pavan, to deliver the fallen. Oh Nityananda Prabhu, you're Dwayara Bhavan, you're the abode of compassion. Ha ha Shri Advaita Dev, Kripa Sindhu Murti. Ha ha Gadadhara Prabhu, Prabhu Nija Shakti. Ha ha Shri Advaita Dev, you're Kripa Sindhu Murti, you're the deity, the personified ocean of mercy. Ha ha, Gadadhar Prabhu, you're the personal Shakti of the Lord. Ha ha, Hari Dasa, hey, Shivas Vakrishva, Mukunda Murari Naba Dvipa Parikar. Ha ha, Haridas, hey, Srivas Vakeshwar, Mukunda Murari, all the devotees of Mahaprabhu in Navadvip. Huh? Kota Gela Prabhu Gana Hoila Andaka Hina Kali Janma Kena Labalumucha. Where have you all gone? Kota Gela Prabhu gone. Hoila Andakar. Now everything is very dark. Hina Kali Janma Kena. Why have I taken birth at this time? I'm such a fallen wretch. I'm so unfortunate. Please be merciful to me. And Narahari Chakravarti Thakur began crying and crying. He fell down on the ground and he started rolling on the ground. I think many of you have been to Vrindavan. Pati Pabhu, you've been to Vrindavan? Raise your hand, yes. Dhruva Dwani, yes. Subhashini, just okay, you've all been to Vrindavan. So you visited the temple of Govindaji, yes? Okay, you visited also Gopishwar Mahadev. You should, very important temple. He fell on the ground at the temple of Govindaji and he started rolling all the way to the temple of Gopishwar Mahadev. Now that's like, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 kilometers, at least maybe 5 kilometers. It's quite a distance. He was rolling and rolling on the ground and crying and sobbing and weeping. And all the Vrindavan Vaishnavas, they came there and they all started calling out, Ha Gauranga, Ha Gauranga. And in front of their very eyes, they saw all the different asasatvikara bhav symptoms. Can you imagine? You go for one of the programs after the pandemic is finally over, things are open, and they're doing the kirtan. Oh, Sri Krishna Prabhu faints and starts rolling on the ground and crying, and tears are coming from his eyes. And oh my God, look, he's having ecstasy. What is it? Either ecstasy or he's putting on a big show. Once the devotees came to Srila Prabhupada and they said, Prabhupada, this man came to the kirtan in Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, and he fell on the ground and he started rolling on the ground, and we didn't know what to do. What should we have done? And Prabhupada said, you should have kicked him. He said, we should have kicked him? Yes, Srila Prabhupada said, then you could see if his ecstasy was really genuine or not. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do that to Sri Krishna Prabhu. I don't think he's going to roll on the ground anyway. But sometimes people do like that. I've seen that a few times here in Orissa also. We just kind of turn our head. But in front of their eyes, he had all these different symptoms. His body was changing color. That's a pretty hard one to imitate. And tears are just shooting out from his eyes. And then suddenly his body was shaking like he was convulsing, and suddenly he fell unconscious. And then all the Brijbasi Vaishnavas, they all surrounded him with great loving concern. And at that time, now we're getting to the point of our story. During that ecstatic fit, suddenly Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur appeared secretly. Nobody else saw. And he spoke to Narahari. And he said, Narahari, why are you crying? Could you imagine? You start lamenting, why did I miss seeing Srila Prabhupada? And you start crying and crying. And then Srila Prabhupada comes before you. You know, I was a bhakti leader for some years in Los Angeles. And an interesting thing, I don't like telling stories about dreams because it encourages the wrong kind of mood. However, I have to say something that almost every single new devotee who would join the temple, even the ones who would leave after a week or two, almost every single devotee in the first few days or week when they joined, they would all have dreams of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada would come to them. I found this many, many places with new devotees that Prabhupada came. And I also had some dream like that, Hare Krishna. At that time, I wish I would have dreams like that all the time. But my personal humble understanding, which is only that, is that Srila Prabhupada is encouraging those devotees. So anyway, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who would have disappeared like, I don't know, 30 or 40 years just prior to that, appeared to Narahari Chakravarti in this vision and said, Narahari, why are you crying? It's okay. Get it together. Look over here. Do you see right there? There's all of our lordships are present. There's Nityananda Prabhu, there's Gauranga Mahaprabhu, there's Advaita, Gadadhar, Srinivasa Acharya, is there Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda, Ramachandra. They're all there. And then at that time, Nityananda Prabhu looked over and said, hey, who is this? And then he saw, oh, this person, he's crying and crying. He grabbed Narahari and he took and put his head on the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's pretty good. If you could have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu grab you by the hair and stick your head on the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you'd be doing really good. So at that time, Nityananda Prabhu said, here, you belong to Gauranga. And Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, no, who am I? You should go with Advaita. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally gave him to Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya said, what are you doing? No, he should belong to Gadadhar Pandit. And Gadadhar Pandit said, what are you making jokes with me? He should go to Srivas Thakur. And he gave him to Srivas Thakur. And Srivas Thakur said, why are you giving him to me? You should give him to Rupa Goswami. He gave him to Rupa. Rupa gave him to Sanatan. Sanatan gave him to Raghunath Das. Raghunath Das gave him to Raghunath Bhatta, who gave him to Gopal Bhatta, who gave him down to Srinivas and Ramachandra. And then finally, he brought him back to his own guru, Nrsimha Chakravarti, who was also present there in that vision. And at that time, Nrsimha Chakravarti took his disciple Narahari by the hand and brought him to Nityananda Prabhu again. And at that time, Nityananda Prabhu shook his head in a very, very pleased kind of way. And Nityananda Prabhu at that time said, Nityananda bole shabbe pai lama shuk, nade kiye ami guru vimukeramu. Nityananda Prabhu said, Shabi Pai Lama Shuk, now I'm really happy. Nade ki ami, I won't look at the face of someone who's guru vimukher, who's averse to their guru. Now that he's come with his guru, now I'm really pleased. And Nityananda Prabhu said, Vimukha se dhure taka, shanginai janra, More Prabhupada napaye sachara. He said, such an envious person is a vimukhi. Se duritaka sangina jana. He stays far away. He never enters into our sangha. Such a rascal. More Prabhupada napaye sachara. He doesn't get the feet of my Prabhupada. Guru anadhari eka dura chara hoila, mora vira deka oi tare teya gila. He said, someone who disrespects their guru, that person becomes a very wicked rogue. He says, mora vira deka, you see my potency. O tare teya gila, I reject that person. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu Then again, he grabbed Narahari's head. Nityananda was a little bit rough. He grabbed him by the head and he threw him down on the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Nityananda Prabhu started laughing ecstatically. And he said, "So Narahari, what do you see now?" And poor Narahari, he just wanted to just come to the Sunday feast or something, right? He just wanted some sweet rice and a little halava and all this stuff's happening to him. This is like really far out. Suddenly, all of that disappeared. And he saw Vamsivat. Vamsivat is right there by Gopishwar Mahadev. And he saw seated on a wonderful throne, Srimati Radharani. And he saw many, many gopis and cows. And he saw Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was on his knees praying to Srimati Radharani. A very amazing sight. This is Gaura Lila. And Krishna was praying to Radharani. What was Krishna saying? We can sing that. Shri Radhara Bhave Krishna Padama Vivala Radha Prema Ashwadiva Kohi Anardala. Krishna became Parama Vivala. Bhave Krishna Parama Vivala. He became overwhelmed with great feelings. And he addressed Srimati Radharani saying, Radha Prema Asvadiva. I want to taste your feelings, your bhav, without any kind of restriction. Hey Radhe. Vilasiva Bhakta Sange Prema Sankirtane Radha Radha Boliyalo Tada Shri Angane. He said, "Oh Vrindavan Rani, oh Radhe, I'll sport with my devotees and Prema Sankirtan, and we'll call out Radha Radha Boliya Lotada Shri Angane, and then I'll roll around on the ground." When Srimati Radharani heard these words of Krishna, she became a little disturbed. Etaka suniya Radha adarya hiyai nija anka krita hashadara tabikai. When she heard the words of Krishna, Radharani's heart became very agitated. And at that time, she took Krishna's hand and holding it firmly in her own lap, Srimati Radharani, she told Krishna, "Oh hey Prananata Tumi Brajendra Nandan, hey Dukini Bhavikina Hoi Bhagaman." She said, "Oh Prananath, Lord of my life, Brajendra Nandan, son of the king of Braj, why do you want to pry into the bhav of this Dukini bhav, this very miserable lady, her feelings?" And Srimati Radharani, she told Krishna, "This is not a good thing. You don't want to try to understand my bhav. This is a very, very dangerous thing." She told him, "Tumi Vrindavane Raja Rajeshvara Tomare ki sobiveka e bhavajva. Tumi Vrindavane Raja Rajeshvara." Here in Vrindavan, you're Raja Rajeshwara, you're the king of the kings. What wonderful thing could you possibly find in some bhavajvara, some feverish emotions like mine? And Radharani said, "Look, you really don't get it. You don't understand my nature. They call me Pagalini Radha, that I'm mad Radha. Because if I don't see you for even one moment, it's like a thunderbolt hits me on the head. And if somehow you go away, then I just stand there motionless with all my girlfriends just staring blankly down the path. Just by seeing your moon-like face right now, my heart's fulfilled. But if I can't see it, then only Lalita knows what happens then. And Lalita, who was there, then spoke up, and she addressed Krishna as Kala Chand. Hey, Kala Chand, oh, black Krishna. Radharani's eyes, she said, they're just like frisky, wag-tailed birds who are always moving about. And you are mystified and captured by the playful movements of her eyes. What can I say about Radharani's feelings? You already know about all this. You're an ocean of rasa. That person who says that Radharani's love can be put into words, what can I say? That person is a fool. They're just trying to depict an ocean with the water contained in a calf's hoof print. All I can say is that whenever you're gone, I'm the one who has to take care of Radharani and somehow keep her alive. And during those difficult periods, her condition becomes so intense that I become the one and only friend of her life. When Krishna, who is also known as Sham Roy, heard the words of Lalita, he smiled and he said, whatever is in my mind is only known by my flute. And then Krishna began to plead with Lalita. Hey, Lalita, please give me Radha Bhav and clear my debt. Because in the Bhagavatam, during the Ras Lila, when Krishna disappeared from the Ras Lila, the gopis became a little sulky and angry with Krishna. And at that time, Krishna spoke a very famous verse to them. Naparayeham niravadyasam yujam swasadu krityam vibudaya sapiva yamarbajam durjaya geha shrinkalai samvichrayatad vipratiyatu sadhana. That, my dear gopis, I don't know how to repay you. I promised everybody, yeyatamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. However someone approaches me, I reciprocate accordingly. But I really don't know how to reciprocate with you. Your love is so very, very intense. So Lalita, when she heard that, Krishna saying that, Krishna said, hey, you're the reservoir of rasa. Radharani is the abode of prema. Only you two know each other. Only you two can understand your own statements. I can't enter into all of this. And then Krishna said, hey, Lalita Sundari, all of you young gopis, you're my life. And Lalita said, Radhe, listen, I think you're Krishna here, he's gone mad now. He doesn't understand what I'm saying. And hearing all this then, Prema Mohi Radha, Radha, who's simply made of love for Krishna. She caught hold of Krishna's other hand, and holding both of Krishna's hands in her hands, she looked at him in the eyes and she said in a very sweet voice, listen, Hari, how will you be able to tolerate all the painful things that will happen during your Sankirtan? When that happens, you should hold this hard soul of Vrishabhanu Nandini, Radha. You hold me in an embrace. And then when you're rolling on the ground, at that time, my body will hold onto your body. Otherwise, how will your soft body be able to endure it? Your body is as soft, it's like fresh butter to the touch. How is that soft body going to roll around on the ground? It's inconceivable. So let me cover your body. And Shamsundar Krishna replied, hey, Praneshwari Radha, I'll do this. And by doing this, I'll freely distribute the sweetness of the nectar of our mutual praying, even to the most sinful people. So Narahari Chakravarti Thakur is watching all this, right? Now remember, he just came to the Sunday Feast program. He thought, yeah, maybe they'll give me some Sunday he fell down on the ground, again, unconscious. And then he saw Radha and Krishna disappear. And then right in front of his eyes, he saw an amazing thing. He saw Radha and Krishna become one, as Shama Gaura. And then suddenly everything changed again, and all the Vrindavan Lila was gone. And again, he saw Navadvip Mayapur. And he saw Radha and Krishna, but now they were one in the form of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And he saw all the different gopis, but now they had male forms. He saw the Jamuna, but now it was the Ganga. Narahari Chakravarti Thakur personally witnessed both Braj Tattva and Navadvip Tattva. And then at that time, his awareness, his consciousness started phasing out in the external world. And then Narahari regained some external consciousness. And he at first just laid there for the entire day and the night in front of the deity of Gopishwar Mahadev. And then suddenly he started crying and he jumped up, Hariyo, Hariyo, Hariyo. And all the Vaishnavas kept coming and, hey, Ganesham, and he's jumping up and down, Hariyo, 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 like some madman. And all the Vaishnavas, they didn't become envious. They said, one prema is again manifested in Vrindavan. This is a prema sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And his Gaura Lila is going on today. This was something like 300 years after the disappearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And more recently than that, Thakur Bhaktivedanta tells a story about two young devotees, one elder and one younger. The names are Vijay Kumar and Brajanath. And they went to Mayapur to get initiated. And they brought very nice boga for their Gurudev and for all the sadhus there at Srivasanga in Mayapur where they were getting initiated. And their mood was so humble and so sincere. They were about to get initiated. They served all the Vaishnavas. They brought nice boga and wonderful devotees cooked. And then suddenly, while they were taking prasadam, suddenly they saw Sachi Devi, the mother of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They saw Malini, the wife of Srivas Thakur. They saw Sita Thakurani, the wife of Advaita. Those ladies were serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prasadam. Can you imagine? You're taking prasadam with all the devotees and suddenly you see this. They kind of forgot to eat and their hands were all in midair. They forgot all about their prasadam and they were just looking, oh my God, oh my God. And then suddenly it disappeared. And then they all began to cry and embrace each other. And then they embrace us two new devotees and they say, yes, this is a real initiation ceremony. Gauranga Mahaprabhu personally has appeared and has given you his blessings. So in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks a very important verse, which has a wonderful commentary I want to share with you in closing from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So we're just going to conclude with this verse in very short purport. And when we finish with this, I have a request from all of you, because hearing is not something passive. It's not just because you're on Zoom that you can just turn off the video and you can eat some pretzel or something and do whatever, and all the devotees think you're there. It's active principle. And I want to ask everybody afterwards what it is that you're walking away with today. What's the best thing you've gotten from all this? So let's conclude now with this verse in purport where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells the devotees, Janma Janma Tomara Paile Mora Sangha Toma Sabha Britye Odeki Be Mora Ranga. He told the devotees, Janma Janma Tomara Paile Mora Sangha. You have my association. Birth after birth. Janma Janma Tomara Paile Mora Sangha. And he said, not just you, Toma Shabara Britye. Britye means your servants. Odeki be Moraranga. Even all your servants will see my pastimes. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta comments in his purport, when the Lord performs his pastimes in this world, his associates come with him and engage in his service. Persons who are counted as servants of those associates also receive the opportunity to realize those pastimes of the Lord. So when those eternal associates come to this world, devotees like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, like Thakur Bhaktivedanta, like Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, and like Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and we become servants of them or servants of their servants, then as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, you get the opportunity to realize those pastimes of the Lord, or to put it in another way, as Srila Prabhupada says in his purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you become Nitya Siddha. Because Gaura Lila is going on today. It's going on right here. And for those persons who are very fortunate, by the mercy of Guru and Nityananda Prabhu, maybe at the beach in Jagannath Puri, maybe in Navadvip at Shiva Sangam, maybe at the Chaitanya Mutt with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, maybe there in Dubai or some other place, you may see Gaura Lila even today. It's going on, and we shouldn't have any doubt, because this is relevant. And if this thing is not going on like this, then really who's very interested? It's just a history book. I don't want to just read history. We want something practical and real. We call that mystical. Mysticism in English, the word means when you practically realize something. Or as Krishna says in the Gita, pratyak savagamam dharmyam susukam kartam avayam, when you practically realize and experience that ecstasy. So I want to stop there, and I want to request the devotees. I don't want to invite you. I want to request you. If you have any reflections or comments, questions are okay also, but I really like to hear reflections, what it is you're walking away with today. Also encourages me, lets me know that not everybody was sleeping during the class. Okay? Anybody have any reflections? Oh, just Sri Krishna Prabhu, I'd like to know, what is your realization?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dharat Pranam. You mentioned about these these bhavas which are there, vyabhichari bhavas, rolling on the ground and crying and all that.
We mentioned to you about that, right?
No, I'm not that level. It's not really, at least not my aim personally. I mean, if it happens, then well,
You
okay.
won't refuse it, right? Okay.
Sorry?
If it happens, you won't refuse it, right?
I mean, I don't think so. I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, main aim is devotional service. So let's just focus on that. Yeah. So it's we have a long way to go. You spoke about darshana, to have the darshan of the Lord, and it's just I was reading Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary in Sata Darshani. He talks about how there are these 14 steps about Satam Kripa, Mahat Seva, Sadhu Kuru Padashraya, and he keeps talking about them, and then he says that the penultimate step is Darshana. That that's when you can see the Lord, and then after that Hari Madhurya Bhavena, then you can relish the Lord's sweetness, and it's just that it's a long process, but you have to start at some point. Like a journey to 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So the single step is mercy of the devotees. So we
Wow.
need mercy of the devotees and serve them also. Hare
What
Krishna.
an awesome reflection. Thank you very much. I saw you smiling during the talk. I've not met Ojasvi Prabhu. Don't mind me torturing him, but he just had such an attractive smile. I just was attracted by that. Uh, but you know something else, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us a shortcut in the language of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He said, what is the meaning of darshan? And he said that here in Jagannath Puri, to teach us the meaning of darshan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the Garuda Stamba. And he would not go all the way next to Jagannath to teach us the meaning of darshan. That darshan doesn't mean that I see the Lord. Yeah, deities look good. I approve. Pujari did good today. That's not darshan. Darshan, Krishna doesn't need our approval. That's not darshan. Darshan means that we come before the Lord and the Lord sees us. And so to teach us that, the process of darshan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stood next to Garuda, thinking that why will Jagannath want to see me? But Garuda is Jagannath's very dear devotee. And if I stand next to him, then definitely Jagannath will see me then. So for us, this is a shortcut for darshan. If we can serve the Lord's devotees and please them, because the Lord will definitely be looking at the Lord's devotees. And if we're there with them and they're pleased with us, then the Lord will also smile upon us. Okay? Thank you for such a nice reflection, Jasri Prabhu. I appreciate it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anybody else have any reflection they want to share?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Who is this?
This is Sharada.
Sarada. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Uh,
Is your video on?
no, it's not. Now it is. Hi, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Oh, there you are. Okay, let me just add your pin right here. I don't know. Here we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Sarada.
So
What are you walking away with today? What did you win? Did you win anything? Did you get a prize?
Definitely the crying for Srila Prabhupada. I mean, I think I'm like, you mentioned how everyone just comes into the movement thinking, oh, Srila Prabhupada is a historical figure, and that was something that I sometimes I do feel that way. And for me, this was very reflective, and definitely I'm taking away this, that I should probably cry for the senior devotees' mercy, and that they're still present in some form. That was very inspiring for me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. What a nice comment. That really inspires me to hear that somebody picked that up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Wouldn't our movement be a wonderful, amazing movement if everybody was crying for Srila Prabhupada? Could you imagine? It would be, there wouldn't be any time for controversies or quarrels. We'd just be so busy crying for Prabhupada. And I think if we did like that, Prabhupada would definitely come. Anybody else have any reflection, anything they want to share they're walking away with today?
Hare Krishna.
And Subhashini is there.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Pranam,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. What was your prize that you got today?
Prabhu, thank you very much for this point. I want
Uh-oh.
to, I was also reflecting parlance where we are able to connect to the devotees that we know, the great Mahatmas that lived in our time. So you were bringing back every single time to let us understand today, if it happened, who would you connect to? So that connection really brought me to life every single time. Otherwise, as you rightly said, to me personally, I think I always read the scriptures and try to study them as something that happened then, and relating to it would be like, I can't relate to it. It's the Supreme Lord. So today, I think you brought this point of, it's not history, we need to connect. So that connection point, and how you brought every single time to Prabhupada, and then finally how you brought Mahaprabhu's katha of the Lord in the mood of Radharani has come to us as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and what a great fortune it is for us. These 2 points are my takeaway today. That was beautiful, very, very eloquent, as Patita Pavan Prabhu already glorified you. I mean, no wonder he did, because it was a scholarly presentation, Prabhu, and it was very relatable. It was very practical. So
I'm just
these
worried.
are some of the questions.
I'm just worried Petit Pablo may want to ask me for money from me afterwards. I don't know. We'll be wary of that. Anyway, thank you. This is really Gaura Purnima. And we can see that there's two different ways to perform Gaura Purnima. One is that it's a very auspicious religious festival, and we're all supposed to go because the temple president tells us we're supposed to go. And so we go, that's nice. That's where, and maybe we do it virtual on Zoom or whatever. That's one way to observe it. But another way to observe, and that way is history, because we're thinking, yeah, 500 years ago, this thing happened. But another way is when Gaura Purnima happens to us, when Gauranga Mahaprabhu appears in our heart through his direct form or through the form of his devotees. Because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta also points out that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, is an extended subject. And if you want to worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have to also worship his devotees. You can't separate the two from each other. So thank you. I really appreciate your comment. You made me inspired that somebody picked up on such a nice thing. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. And also, I'm Nandakumar Prabhu's wife, Patit Pavan, and Dhruv has been in connection, connecting with you to fix this program for the youth. Unfortunately, Prabhu's on a training and wasn't able to stay over for this program. Our apologies for that, Prabhu, but we will again together watch this recording once again, and Prabhu will also write to you. Thank you very much. As I would go through the mails that you were sending. We know how busy you were, but it's our great fortune for all the youth that are present here today and those who are going to listen to the recording, that we got this wonderful opportunity of listening from you. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for accepting and giving us this opportunity to hear from you.
As it's said that the wife is a half of the body of the husband. And as my wife always wants to remind me, the better half. Thank you very much. Anybody else with any final comments or anything?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Jayant Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, firstly, I'll offer my respectful obeisances. I was attracted by the the story you told, that how devotees were encouraged to go on the beach at 3 a.m. Like, this is for the first time. I would say I'm more of a new devotee, since I'm hearing this for the first time. That how people also experienced the mercy of the Lord, how they saw Lord through their eyes, and this is something new for me. And I would really like to go to the beach. I'm sure I won't see Mahaprabhu because I'm not at that
But you
level.
might.
I know, Prabhu, I'm not at that level of a devotee, but yes, I would at least that we say that bhav, or that feeling that yes, Mahaprabhu would be present out here, would give us that mercy, that happiness of his. That story really, I felt attracted to it and all. Yes.
I'll tell you a very short story. You may have heard of the great devotee Tulsi Das, who Prabhupada said was a great devotee of Lord Ram, and his book Ramchrit Manas is the best book in Hindi. It's not our line. It's a book about Lord Ram. We're Krishna devotees, but Tulsi Das is a great devotee. And Tulsi Das, every day, he would do his puja, and he would take the Charnamrita and he would put it on a tree. And after some days, there was a ghost in that tree, and that ghost was very pleased with him. Said, "Thank you very much. You've been giving me this Charnamrita. I'm a liberated soul, and I want to reciprocate with you. What can I do for you?" And Tulsi Das, he said, "I just want to see Ram. Where is Lord Ramachandra?" And the ghost said, "Look, I can't help you with that." He said, "That's a little beyond me." He said, "But I can do one thing for you." He said, "Every day there's a Ram Katha going on near here. And many people come to hear from this sadhu about Ram Lila. And every day there's one really old sadhu. And he always stays until the very end. He's the last person to leave. And that sadhu is actually Hanuman. And you ask him, and he can show you Lord Ram." And so Tulsi Das went to that Ram Katha the next day. And the person spoke, and Katha was finished, and everybody got up and was leaving until there's only one old man left. And Tulsi Das ran over and grabbed his feet and started holding on to his feet. Said, "I know who you are. You're Hanuman." And that old man said, "What are you doing? You're crazy. Leave me alone. I'm just an old man." No, I know who you are." No, you're crazy, man. Let go of me." No, I know who you are. You have to show me. And then suddenly that old man, he changed. and he saw it was actually Hanuman. And Hanuman then showed him, gave him darshan of Lord Ramachandra. So our path to darshan is not a direct path. It's not that oh, here I am, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, here I am, Krishna. You're really fortunate that I just walked in the door. No, but we always go behind our Gurudev, behind the Vaishnavas. And so when we render service to everyone, just like Tulsidas was giving Charnamrita to this tree and a ghost got it, and that ghost blessed him, we may get some blessing in ways we don't know. It may come in some strange, crooked way. So Jayant Prabhu, you're warmly invited to come to Jagannath Puri, and you can go there every morning at 3 o'clock in the morning. Don't bring your wristwatch, because sometimes there's some gundas on the beach who they may liberate you from that. But you go there, maybe with a couple of friends, and you chant japa, and who knows, you might meet some old man, a strange old man. You never know. Thank you very much, Shivaji. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else with anything final? Just burning up you want to say? Okay, so then, okay. Simran, you have something?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful, insightful class. I think, as Subhashini Matri said, this was a class that we could actually relate to, and so much that we could learn. The one thing that I take back today is the fact that you said, people who compare Radha Rani's love for Krishna with words, they are actually fools. That actually uh, that brings us, like, sometimes we compare the association of devotees. We don't take that so seriously, and association really matters a lot. So this kind of taught me that the importance of association of great devotees, like with great devotees like you, Prabhu. So thank you so much for that wonderful class. Hare
Well,
Krishna.
thank you, Simran. You know, we see to the hearts of the devotees. When Krishna wants to see what he looks like, he doesn't go to a photo booth at the shopping mall. He doesn't take a selfie with a cell phone, because the cell phone can't capture his his beauty. So how does he see himself? He can go to a mirror, but an ordinary mirror won't work either. So he goes to that mirror, which is a Sat Prema Hridaya Darpana, the Darpana, the mirror of the Sat Prema, the loving devotee, the heart of Srimati Radharani. And in the heart of that devotee, we can really see. And in a similar way, this is why I like to ask for reflections, because I just see things in a very one-dimensional way. But when you make some comment, then I see from another perspective. We see through the hearts of the devotees like you. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And it looks like Ojasvi Krishna Prabhu has
Thank you
got his
very
hand
much,
raised.
Guruji. Thank you.
Rajabanita has some comments. She can't
Yeah, I
control
just
herself.
wanted to add few words to the lady that spoke before me, that I heard the story of today already a few times, but each time that I'm continue to listen, I accept from you another petal of the flower, unconceivable lotus that called prema, this mood of Radharani, and this mood that actually Lord Chaitanya came to bring to us, to everybody. So it's just, just one other part, or one other color, or one more petal that I got today. Thank you.
Very, very nice. Thank you. And we hope that petal becomes more and bigger and bigger and bigger. So many petals. And there's 1,008 petals or 1,000,008 petals. Thank you very much, Brajabanita. For those who don't know her, Brajabanita, she's a cat lady, and she lives in Israel. She's a disciple of Bhaktivedanta Maharaj. A very nice devotee. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Brajabanita. Okay, anybody else want to? Petit Pavan Prabhu, oh, let's see. Ojasvi Krishna Prabhu has his hand raised in the air. Ojasvi, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Prabhu. I have a question.
Okay.
You mentioned in the class that you read out a translation, and it was whatever Krishna says, whatever is in my mind is only known by my flute. Can you give me the reference for this, like the number or the book at least?
That is from this book written by this Ananda Narayan Maitra. He's a disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti, of Narahari Chakravarti Thakur. And the book is called Naraharir Vishesha Parichoy. It's in Bengali. Actually, you can get a copy if you have any, if you read Bengali, if you have any friends in Mayapur. The ISKCON devotees there, they printed a copy of Narottam Vilas not so long ago with that appendix as part of it. It's a very, very wonderful appendix.
Narahari Vishesha Parichay.
Yeah.
Can you give me the chapter and the verse number?
It's a small chapter and there's no numbering to the verses. I mean, you can count them. I haven't done that. Maybe I did that with a few of the verses. Let's see. I don't think I didn't even count them. I transliterated and translated these verses today with the help of somebody else. And very nice book. You like, huh?
Sure. It's amazing. Like, whatever is in my mind is only known by my flute.
Yeah. Yeah. And what does that mean? Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he says that what is the sound of Krishna's flute? That Krishna is calling out the name of Radha. And we learn in the Gauranga Smarna Archana Padati by Jan Chandra Goswami, he describes there that our bhajan, when we're chanting, that should become one with our mind. Our mind should be one with that chanting. Our heart should become one with that chanting. So this is real music. This is Krishna's flute playing. When Krishna's playing his flute, it's not just like a recitation of an orchestra or some mundane sound, but this is a sound of Krishna's heart. And he's calling out Radhe, Radhe. So only my flute, he says, understands my heart. Is that okay?
Because it's also said that the mridanga is also an expansion of the flute.
Yes,
so now I'm
yes.
wondering,
yes.
What is the mridanga calling out?
Yeah, that mridanga, he's calling out diktan, diktan, dikitan,
Yeah.
diktan, diktan, dikitan. He's calling out the hell with anybody who doesn't want to hear Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's kirtan. That's what he's telling you. He has a different kind of mood.
Yeah, isn't that Prabodhananda Saraswati, if I'm not wrong?
That phrase, we came across some rare book, I can't remember the name of the author, about the instruments in Gauranga Mahaprabhu's kirtan. And there it describes the meaning of the speech of the mridanga, diktan, diktan, dikitan. Why he's saying it's dik means to hell with. And dik also it's like a call.
Okay. Can you tell me the name of that book? Because I would be really...
Okay, I'll tell you what, it's not so easy for me just to grab it right here. But if someone reminds me on WhatsApp, I think at least one or two of the devotees here are in touch with you on WhatsApp, and you remind them, some of the organizers, I don't remember who organized this, I'm sorry. If they remind me on WhatsApp, I'll send you the whole Krishna Katamrita Bindu issue. I was contacted on email by Dhruv Prabhu Advani, and I can send it to him, if that's okay. You can remind him about it. In case I forget, you should remind him, okay? Is that all right? Won't be hard for me. I'll send you the Bindu, and it's wonderful verses. Okay, thank you, Just Krishna. I hope we get to meet you someday.
Surely. Okay, my last question is, are you going to arrange Puri Parikrama this year? It usually happens in January, but
we had a January parikrama every year for many, many years, a retreat, but this year we canceled it because of COVID. And we had in the last, I don't know, a few weeks, we've had 3 parikramas, different small groups. And we have at least one other senior devotee asking us to take him around coming up. And we have another one coming in Kartik and another one coming next January, depending on where we're at also, because
they just had Navadip Mandal Parikrama and like 2,000 people just came. So I thought, why not Puri?
Yeah, they did something. I don't know. Here in Puri, I think they're a little more strict in the temples, and they would freak out if we took that many people to Gambhira or something. We went with a small group, and the Mahanta was okay, but big groups I think might still be hard right now. Anyway, we're here. I already had COVID, so I feel like I'm invulnerable now. So I hope. So if the devotees want us to take them around, we're happy to do. So Dhruv Advani Prabhu made some comment here to everyone. Let me see. Thank you, the wonderful class. Importance of Guru, the opportunity one can have to see the Lila happening today. Hearing his pastimes really clears the anarthas and makes us wish to be there in the pastimes. How unfortunate we are to not have been there to experience. Srila Prabhupada said once that we see Vrindavan through our ears. This is the path of seeing through the ears. And this is an important principle. Sutekshita Pata, 3rd canto, chapter 9, text 11, the Bhagavatam describes Sutekshita Pata. This is the Pata, or the path of seeing by the ears. Okay, so anything, last comments from anybody? Pati Pavan Prabhu, do you want to conclude with any comments?
Yes, I mean, again, very happy to have you here with us addressing our youth. There's so much that I've picked up from this class today, and really hoping I can hear from you again soon. So yes, Prabhu, if you do have the time, I know you're very busy, but we would love to have a few more sessions with you in the coming year. And of course, once the pandemic is done, we would love to have you in Dubai as well, physically addressing our youth. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for accepting this. And again, on behalf of the youth, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Well, just a little mention, by the way, we're supposed to give Gaur Purnima talk at Indian time, means 7 o'clock, starting the same time as we started tonight, to the devotees in UAE on Gaur Purnima Day. And we'll be speaking something, I think, from a rare book called Vaidogya Vilas, which speaks about how Krishna Lila and Gaura Lila are non-different. Very beautiful topic. Okay.
Yeah, perfect, Prabhu. We'll make sure we'll send our invite out to all our youth, and yeah, we'll hear again from you in a couple of days.
Thank you, Pati Pavan Prabhu. And I hope you're not going to ask me for money, are you?
No.
Everybody who flatters me, they always want money from me. I don't know.
No, Prabhu, we should be giving you dakshina.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all so very, very much. It's so nice to see all the devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Prem Buddhashtotam Sachinandana Gaura Hari ki, Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo, Vansha Kalpadarubhishcha, Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha, Patitanam Pavani.